I'm glad we're not rich. They'd want a plane, wouldn't we? Earthly possessions that allow us fun and entertainment for a time, but yet all these things lead to a deeper sense of need. If you buy a 12-inch TV, flat screen, you want a 32-inch. And I heard someone yesterday that bought a 60-inch. The size doesn't satisfy. It only leads to a deeper longing for satisfaction because they do not feel that need that God has put in us. It's a God-shaped void. It will never be satisfied until this void is filled with Christ. It's the only thing that can satisfy. C.S. Lewis states, we are half-hearted creatures, fooling around with drink and sex and ambition when infant joy is offered to us, like an ignorant child who wants to go on making mud pies in the sun, in the slum, because he cannot imagine what it means by the offer of a holiday at the sea. We are far too easily pleased. If you've never seen it, you never know anything about it. Once you see it, you want it. Once you're satisfied until you see something better, then you want it. What a powerful quote by C.S. Lewis. Where human beings are far too easily pleased. We fool around with so many things that do not satisfy. Things that do not and cannot fill the void and the emptiness, all because we are too easily pleased. We think so often that the things of this world will satisfy. One TV show, Law and Order, doesn't satisfy, so they put on a marathon. We can't be satisfied with one case of criminal mind or a cold case. We have to have a double feature. We want one more. and when we always end up feeling short of what we desire, and a lot of it is because we are not seeking the right thing. The joy that is offered to us, the peace that is offered to us, the satisfaction that is offered to us is unbelievable if we would only grab hold of Jesus and His offer to be our satisfaction. Jesus Christ is the only thing that can bring true satisfaction. A great illustration of this is the story of the prodigal son in Luke 15. He took the inheritance his father had given him. Now I'm going to be happy. I'm going to leave home with my inheritance, and I'm going to have a blast. And he went into a far country where he squandered his inheritance on notorious things, on things that would not satisfy. He was far too easily pleased and fooled into thinking that this was what life was all about, only to fall short. And when he had no money, when he had no friends, no parties to go to, but when the money was gone, so were his friends. At this point, it's time he began going downhill. You've heard that phrase before. In a majority way, to the point of living like pigs and eating the slop they ate. How often have we seen it with people? To be hungry is not enough. I must be really starving to know what it is in our heart towards. When the prodigal son was hungry, he went to feed with the husk. But when he was starving, he returned to his father. So in Matthew 5:6 and Luke 6:21, Jesus is not just talking about mere hunger, but about starving after righteousness. You starve to receive the truth of God's Word, and when you leave, you should be satisfied. Picture the audience listening to Jesus. They were Galileans, not well liked by the rest of the Jews. Could anything come out of Galilee? They said to Jesus. Could anything come out of Galilee? Talking about Jesus. They were lowercase citizens. They lived in Ferguson, on the bad side of town. They were viewed similar to the way the Jews looked at the Samaritans. The Jews would rather become a dog than be a Samaritan. Look at the crowd surrounding Jesus. What do you think their view of righteousness was? I can guarantee you that their view of righteousness was a screwed view, a wrong view, due to the portrayal of righteousness by the religious leaders. When reading and studying Luke and Matthew, you must look over to Matthew chapter 5 and verse 20 to see the connection Jesus is making. The view that these people had of righteousness was an incorrect view. You could have an incorrect view on a profession of faith that will send you, that will not get you into the kingdom of God. Your view of a profession of faith, being born again, needs to be right, and they had a wrong view. Jesus is making the view that people had a righteousness that was incorrect, but Jesus was correcting that view and showing them that that is an issue of the heart. The Pharisees wanted you to do good, and they obeyed the laws. They made up 365 laws and wanted you to obey the law. Here's what Matthew 5:20 says. Here's what Jesus says. For I say to you that unless your righteousness exceeds the righteousness of the Pharisees, you will by no means enter into the kingdom of heaven. Amen. They dropped our false teeth right there. I can see this as being the picture of righteousness. The audience had a picture of a religious leaders who are outwardly righteous and pious, but inwardly sick and sinful and corrupt. The most pious people on the outside are the most irreligious, the most sinful on the inside. They look and see this judgmental attitude of the Pharisees, the hypocritical nature of these men. They may in some way look good on the outside, but inwardly they are missing the point of doing the things they are supposed to do. The Pharisees are feeling as though by their actions they are gaining righteousness and doing right in the eyes of God. Here in this message, Jesus is telling them there is a difference between the righteousness of the Pharisees and the righteousness that I require for you to get into heaven. Amen. Leaders have a strong responsibility of presenting the truth. And He's telling them the truth. If we look at other passages, we see Him making the same point. Jesus preached a lot of times. We only have a few times that Jesus preached. I wish it had been recorded. I wish it had been on YouTube. Wouldn't it be cool to see Jesus preach on YouTube? But see, God in His perfect timing chose the very time that Jesus came. Jesus came at the time that there was no TV, no Facebook, no YouTube, no cameras. It all had to be written down. There used to be a time that we learned by reading, concentrating on reading. You took time to read. You spent time reading. You spent time listening. The debates of Abraham Lincoln went 3 hours. Can you imagine seeing a presidential debate today that lasts 3 and 4 hours? Because we are in a time where people cannot concentrate. Now, you remember when commercials was 30 minutes? You remember when you saw a commercial on TV, it lasted a minute? Did you know commercials now last 15 seconds? That's the reason we see 8 commercials because our frame of mind is short. I guarantee you, I hope not, but every 8 seconds we have it used to be, is a reflection. We cannot concentrate more than just 8 minutes. We had to go to a commercial. Then we don't like commercials. But when Jesus spoke, He spoke and they listened. There was time to do that. Remember the woman at the well? Jesus answered and said unto her in John chapter 14, verses 13 and 14. John chapter 14, 13 and 14. Jesus answered and said to her, whoever drinks of this water will thirst again, but whosoever drink of the water that I shall give him will never thirst. But the water that I give him will become in him a fountain of water springing up into everlasting life. The water that you drink from God will last for eternity. The words that you're receiving from God today will last for eternity. Feeding the 5,000 in John 6. 26 and 27, Jesus answered and said, most assuredly I say to you, you seek me not because you saw the signs, but because you ate of the loaves and were filled. Do not labor for food which perish, but for the food which endureth to everlasting life, when the Son of Man will give you, because God the Father has set His seat on Him. Seek the food of Christ. It's a figurative concept, is that if you hunger after Him, if you hunger to know Him, if you hunger to grasp the knowledge of Him, and you're willing to spend time with Him, it's going to last for eternity. It's the reason we have to eat 20 times a day, 15 times a day, 5 times a day, because we're hungry. It never satisfies. It will not continue. Jesus Christ is the only way who can satisfy. And here in these verses in Luke, He is presenting this point to the audience to come. To some, this message brings refreshment because they see the Pharisees and the self-righteousness of the Pharisees, and they are turned off